that part of her body, the leg, proved invaluable in proving that she was murdered.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the show. We have a very interesting topic today that will keep you on the edge of your seat. We are delving deep into the murder investigation of Julie Ward. Stay tuned as we reveal important information and look into where this exciting investigation stands right now. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and set off the alarm so you never miss any of our exciting videos. In the vast expanse of Kenya's Masai Mara Game Reserve, where the untamed wilderness meets the realm of mystery, the Julie Ward murder case left an indelible mark. It is a tale that stands the test of time, a puzzle that remains, and a recollection that stays with you. Julie, an amateur wildlife photographer, left her family in the early 1990s for a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. To put together enough money for her trip to Africa, Julie had to put in extra hours at a job as a photographer in Bury, St. Edmunds. She kept her family updated on her travels with blue airmail postcards and letters. Julie remained in Kenya for some additional weeks after the conclusion of the organized safari, and just before she was about to depart for the United States, she went to photograph the wild beast migration. After visiting the Masai Mara Game Reserve with her companion on September 6, 1998, Julie was never seen again. Julie had to spend the night at the Masai Serena Lodge by herself after the four-wheel drive vehicle they were traveling in broke down. Her buddy had to go back to Nairobi, so she was unable to join her for the day. There's a strong possibility that Julie retrieved her belongings by driving to the adjacent Sand River camp. She was never discovered to be alive again after that. John Ward, a successful businessman and Julie's father, boarded a plane to Nairobi less than 24 hours after learning that his daughter had gone missing. After arriving in Kenya, John arranged for an aerial search using a small fleet of aircraft that he rented, and during that search he found Julie's abandoned Suzuki. On September 13th, John discovered pieces of his daughter's burnt and mutilated body lying in ashes under a bush in a remote region of the Masai Mara Game Reserve that was about 6 miles away. The body had been torched and dismembered. John was informed by Kenyan and British authorities that Julie had either been killed by lions, hit by lightning, or had committed suicide. One of these three deaths was a possibility. John felt motivated to find out the truth when he became certain that the authorities were attempting to hide the truth about what had happened to his daughter. Later on, he found out that the report of the pathologist, which suggested that foul play was involved, had been altered by the man's boss. Sections of the report were changed to suggest that she had been attacked and eaten by wild animals. However, the findings of the post-mortem study that was commissioned by John and carried out by 2 British pathologists revealed that Julie had been hacked to death, doused in gasoline, and burnt. At this point, John had begun a search for the person responsible for the death of Julie that would run for 35 years and cost an estimated £2 million. Throughout that period, he made over 200 trips to Africa to sift through the numerous levels of falsehoods, cover-ups, corruptions, and false leads. The Kenyan authorities stated that Julie had either been killed by animals, had been struck by lightning, or had committed suicide before her death. John's inquiry revealed both resistance and confusion on the part of the Kenyan authorities, whom John suspected to have been working in conjunction with the British Foreign Office, Scotland Yard, and the MI6. John remained resolute in his pursuit of the truth until the day he passed away, even though the person John suspected of being responsible for Julie's killing was never brought to justice. An investigation into the circumstances surrounding Julie's passing away was carried out in Kenya in 1989, at a time when the matter was receiving extensive coverage in the worldwide media. John was subjected to a record-setting 28 days of intense cross-examination. In the end, the judge concluded that Julie had been killed, but he stated that he did not believe there should be any further investigation. After another 3 months had passed, the British Foreign Secretary Douglas had requested assistance from Scotland Yard for the ongoing investigation being conducted by the Kenyan police. John thought that the Metropolitan Police had hidden evidence and wrongly distributed it. A short time later, John also made a recording of a discussion in which he was counseled by a government servant from the Foreign Office not to, and I quote, rock the boat. Leave it to the Kenyans, end of quote. This advice was given to John shortly after Julie was murdered. In 1991, 2 junior park guards stood accused of killing Julie. The trial took place in 1991. John's research had already led him to the conclusion that they were not culpable of the crime, and the information he gathered contributed to their eventual acquittal. A recommendation to investigate the head park warden at the time was made by the judge presiding over the trial. Nevertheless, it would be another 6 years before Simon Olemakala would be arrested. During a trial that took place in 1999, Simon Olemakala was declared not guilty. An inquest took place in the UK 16 years after the murder it investigated. A verdict of murder without justification was reached. During the investigation, a statement issued by the government of Kenya was read aloud. It admitted that the former administration of Daniel Arap Moi had made an effort to conceal the truth. During the investigation, the coroner heard rumors that Jonathan Moi, the playboy son of Kenya's former president Daniel Arap Moi, was implicated in a death. This assertion was disproved by the company. The inconsistencies in the evidence presented by the MI6 officer, according to the Suffolk coroner Dr. Peter Dean, and I quote, leaves a lot to be desired and a lot of questions unanswered. Meanwhile, John Stoddart, who headed an independent investigation into the case that was conducted by Lincolnshire Police, corroborated John's allegations that the authorities in Kenya and the United Kingdom were involved in a plot. When Stoddart finally finished his 3-year investigation in the latter part of 2004, his report was censored because it could compromise national security. When the conclusions of the inquiry were eventually made public, the report leveled criticism at the FCO as well as the British High Commission in Kenya, drawing attention to errors and cover-ups. John continued to do his study in the evenings at home in the attic office that he had previously used as a space for the kids, Julie, to play table tennis with her brothers Bob and Tim. When John was on the verge of giving up, a fresh lead, later, a piece of evidence that could assist in determining the truth, would appear. A fresh investigation into the killing of Julie was launched in 2009 by the Kenyan police, with assistance from at least 2 officers from Scotland Yard. In 2010, John made an effort to persuade the Kenyan authorities to get DNA evidence from Jonathan Moi. However, his efforts were fruitless. After spending years compiling evidence, John concluded that Jonathan Moi was the offender. John had the suspicion that Julie had at some point come into contact with Jonathan Moi, who owned a farm in the area, as well as his associates. They raped her and then later murdered her, most likely to cover their tracks, when John came into the country searching for his lost daughter. In 2019, Jonathan Moi passed away as a result of his cancer. Now, despite the fact that John was becoming older, he never ceased working on the investigation. During the course of the previous 6 years, his son Bob had been working on it alongside him, and John's other son Tim had provided assistance. John had written a second book about the case and his experiences, and Bob now has the unabridged manuscript of his work. During this time, A documentary and drama series have been developed and are in the process of being commissioned and produced. The family is certain that both will be made, at which point they hope the book will be released. John Ward passed away on June 7 at the age of 89, barely 2 weeks after the passing of his cherished wife Jan. Bob asserted that the burial ceremony was without a doubt about Julie in addition to John and John. Bob explained, and I quote, "We couldn't have a funeral for Julie at the time without it being a circus, so we just had me, Tim, Dad, and Mom," when asked about the attendees at the funeral. He also said none of her friends were even given the opportunity to bid her farewell, but as of now, they have. The case of Julie Ward continues to this day to be a puzzling conundrum, leaving a wake of questions that have yet to be resolved. The search for resolution and retribution on behalf of Julie's family continues. The story of Julie Ward serves as a timely reminder that many enigmas still require further investigation. If you have any information, insights, or theories about the case, or if you know of any current developments, we welcome you to share them in the comment section below. The Julie Ward mystery is one that just won't go away, no matter how much time passes. As we move forward with our journey through Kenya's unresolved cold cases, we reaffirm our dedication to the shining light on untold stories like Julie's, tales that are just waiting to be told. We appreciate you for tuning in to this episode of Kenyan Cold Cases. Like, share, and subscribe.